This great show brought to you by the greatest show in Earth, the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show, March 31st to April 4th, presented by IOOF Funds Management.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Hugh Remington.
Gang rape brothers launch a legal challenge that could lead to a retrial. The Bulldogs close ranks as Willie Mason weighs up legal action over cocaine claims. And who'd have thought it? Britain and Libya make friends. Good evening. Also in the news tonight, big seas get bigger and the surfers get braver on the Gold Coast. And Sri Lanka comes out blazing in the third test run chase.
Short and wide.
Australia's most notorious gang rape case could be headed for a retrial. The alleged ringleader, Bilal Scaff, was sentenced to a record 55 years in jail and his brother 32 years over a string of attacks in Western Sydney in 2000. But the pair is now gearing up for an appeal because two jurors defied instructions and secretly visited one of the crime scenes.
For the victims, it could mean they're forced to go through the ordeal of a trial all over again. It may also rewrite the historic 55-year sentence handed down to notorious gang rapist Bilal Scaff and the 32-year term given to his brother Mohammed. It follows a sheriff's report to the appeal court today, which says two jurors took matters into their own hands when they went to one of the rape scenes involving a 16-year-old victim. The report claims they visited Greenacres Gosling Park to see the area at night and experiment with some of the evidence raised in the assault. The claims of misconduct by the jurors mean the brothers now have the right to appeal the convictions on the basis they were denied a fair trial. If successful, there would be a retrial. But the case also has the potential to change the way all jury trials are conducted. The Crown was asked to investigate whether judges need to give the jury clearer directions before a trial gets underway.
It need not be called into question because we really have a very robust and good system.
The claims will be detailed before the court next week when lawyers for the Scaff brothers lodge an extra ground of appeal. Helen Kapelos for Nightline.
In Rugby League, a standoff is developing between the game's administrators and the Bulldogs club over exactly which player it was who tested positive to an illegal drug. The club refuses to say, despite newspapers naming Willie Mason. The Test front rower is considering legal action, insisting it wasn't him.
After being named and shamed by two Sydney newspapers, Willie Mason's already high profile went up another notch this morning. And with the unwanted attention, the Bulldogs quickly closed ranks behind their star forward. The media was barred from Belmore. Attempts to cover this morning's training clearly upset Bulldog staff who were snapping at cameraman's heels.
Off the bin push. Off the bin push.
After an hour, the Bulldogs lifted the blockade to allow a select few in to have a word with the coach.
How is Willie though?
Willie Tonga's been fantastic. He's come over.
Willie Mason.
How's Willie Mason? Fine.
But I'm just saying, is he coping?
He's fine.
The Bulldogs management was even less forthcoming, refusing to confirm or deny anything.
No, is it Willie Mason or not? That's an allegation, and it is only an allegation.
Dr. Paponis claims his hands are tied because of a confidentiality agreement between the club and players.
We are trying to be as open as we can with everyone. However, you must appreciate the constraints imposed on us.
In a statement issued late today by his manager, Mason said that he'd never tested positive to any drug at any time. NRL boss David Gallop had challenged the Bulldogs to come clean, but once again the Dogs are digging in, and as the speculation continues, what is certain, the ongoing damage to the game's reputation. Damien Ryan reporting for Nightline.
Indeed, 5 Townsville Rugby League players have been charged over the alleged gang rape of an 18-year-old woman in a Longreach hotel after a Sevens tournament last month. 4 of the 5 accused players appeared in court today. 2 of the men were charged with rape, a 26-year-old with attempted rape. 2 more players faced counts of sexual assault. All the players were granted bail and will appear in court next month. A rapid $4 million upgrade has begun at Avalon Airport, west of Melbourne, with hundreds of thousands of passengers expected there from June the 1st. It'll be the base for the new Qantas budget airline Jetstar, but for now, it's a race to be ready.
There are just 8 weeks or 41 working days to go before the first Jetstar flight departs from Avalon. Qantas's gamble on the so-called secondary airport came relatively late in the initial planning process, leaving little time for improvements. But so positive has been the response from passengers, the upgrade budget has already been increased by a third, from $3 to $4 million, amid early talk of additional flights.
They're moving very fast. We're in discussions at the present moment, potential growth opportunities, and it's looking very, very prosperous. It's exciting.
The tumble-down former terminal is being gutted, with half the budget, $2 million, being spent to transform it into a modern but modest user-friendly facility. It's being designed to cope with over 1,000 passengers a day who will access the aircraft through covered walkways. The entire complex situated literally a few metres from the new parking area, which will accommodate over 500 vehicles.
To make it a little bit different to the normal concrete jungles that we believe the airports are today within the world.
It's hard to believe at the moment, but in just 2 months' time, this humble shed will be turned into a terminal that's going to be dealing with more than 250,000 passengers a year. Initially, Jetstar will operate 70 cut-price flights a week from Avalon to Sydney and Brisbane.
Don't expect the Taj Mahal. It's not going to be that.
Charles Slade for Nightline.
A peaceful end to a not-so-peaceful protest over fees tonight at Melbourne's Monash University. It started when about 200 students forced their way into a house on the Clayton campus used by the university's marketing department. 2 police officers and a protester were injured in a scuffle at the front door. The students vowed to stay there until the university reversed its decision to raise HECS fees by 25%. But the protest was quietly abandoned tonight. Mark Latham found himself taking on not only the government today over our commitment in Iraq, but Washington as well. The US Ambassador Tom Schiefer has backed the Prime Minister, warning the Labour leader's pledge to pull our troops out by Christmas will only encourage terrorism. But a defiant Mark Latham has now accused the government of neglecting terrorism with our involvement in Iraq.
As Parliament rose for the week, the issue was still dominating debate. The Prime Minister lashing out at the opposition leader over his pledge to pull Australia's troops out of Iraq, regardless of the impact that could have on the new Iraqi administration.
We don't have a cut-and-run strategy, Mr Speaker. It's not the Australian way to cut and run. It's the Australian way to stay and do the job and see it through, and that's what we intend to do.
Coalition MPs were equally blunt.
Al-Qaeda will say, well, we've got an ally in Australia, and that's Mark Latham.
Mr Latham should be nominated for the Al-Qaeda Cup.
Mark Latham says that's just another government slur.
When someone doesn't agree with them, they put the slur out about Al-Qaeda. Well, I don't care too much what they say about me. It washes over me.
But the opposition leader's stand was also being questioned by US Ambassador Tom Schiefer.
We don't want terrorists to get the wrong message here. We don't want them to think that the bombing in Madrid has paid some sort of political dividend, whether it is in Spain or elsewhere.
But Mr Latham isn't about to change his mind. Far from assisting the war on terror, he's now suggesting the invasion of Iraq has actually hindered the campaign against Al-Qaeda.
If all the effort and time and resources that had gone into the war in Iraq actually went into targeting the terrorists, then the world would be a safer place today. The world would be a better place.
The Prime Minister is now planning to visit the US later this year to sign the Free Trade Agreement, a move designed to highlight the importance of the US alliance in the run-up to the election. Laurie Wilson reporting for Nightline.
Britain's Prime Minister Tony Blair has met with Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi in a dramatic display of the thawing relations between the West and the former world enemy #1. The bitter relationship began to improve after Libya's decision to abandon efforts to acquire weapons of mass destruction and to pay damages for the 1988 Lockerbie bombing, which killed 270 people. Critics have accused Mr Blair of being motivated by trade prospects, with Royal Dutch Shell signing a multi-million-dollar deal to explore Libya's oil and gas reserves. The two leaders talked for 90 minutes in a ceremonial tent outside the capital, Tripoli. Palestinian extremists threatened retaliation over the assassination of Hamas leader Sheikh Yassin. Today they sent it in the form of a bewildered 14-year-old boy, a suicide bomber who thankfully didn't make it.
A 14-year-old boy named Hussam Abdo with fear on his face, a suicide bomber's vest strapped to his body. Israeli soldiers spotted the boy as he ran towards them at the Nablus checkpoint. They'd received intelligence they were targets of an imminent attack. Guns were trained on the teenager as a robot was sent out, carrying a pair of scissors so he could cut away the vest. "Don't cut the white wire," bomb disposal experts shouted. "I can't do this," he cried. "I don't want to die." But the device was removed safely, and Hussam was ordered to remove the rest of his clothing to prove he wasn't carrying any other weapons. The bomb was detonated in a controlled explosion.
How is it possible that parents could allow their children to be sacrificed in order to kill the children of others?
In the wake of the assassination of Hamas leader Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, the Israeli military is maintaining an iron grip on the Palestinian population.
Here at the Gaza Strip and over at the West Bank, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians remain under virtual lockdown. And the Israeli government is giving no clear indication as to when that's likely to end.
Their fear is opening the borders will only unleash the full fury of the Palestinians, and that scenes like this will have a more deadly ending. In Jerusalem, Brett McLeod for Nightline.
And ahead on Nightline, a major boost for the hospitals at the centre of Sydney's health outrage and a rare double set of identical twins.
Kmart, we're cutting the cost of Easter with 25% off men's, women's and kids' clothing until Friday. Excludes underwear and sleepwear. That's 25% off men's, women's and kids' clothing. So hop into Kmart, cutting the cost of living this Easter.
Hi.
Hi.
I couldn't tell if you're actually attractive from over there, so I've come for a closer look.
Well, we've already checked you out and we've decided we're not interested.
Hey, I've just noticed some topless girls checking me out, so I'll catch you around.
Good luck.
Refreshing Lipton iced tea.
To get important information about your destination, visit smarttraveller.gov.au. It's a must-see destination for smart travellers. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Whoever you are, with a ticket in the $19 million Cats Lotto Super Draw, life could be a dream. On Saturday, April 3.
There's only one pure premium taste, Cascade Premium Light.
This is Nightline. 4 years ago, the Olympic flame flickered into darkness at the close of the Sydney Games. Tonight, it was reignited in the ruins of ancient Olympia in a ceremony that marks the countdown to Athens. Here's Michael Usher.
Well, Hugh, as is the tradition in this most ancient of settings, the Olympic flame has just been lit within the past few minutes for the 2004 Athens Games. 776 BC was the first lighting, and in 1936 for the Berlin Games, the ritual was reborn. The flame is lit using a concave dish of beaten metal, which kindles the sun's rays into the Olympic flame. A company of actresses in flowing robes have carried the flame from the ruined temple of ancient Olympia through to the preserved grass and sand stadium. The flame passed on to the Greek javelin Olympian Kostas Gatsianidis, the first of thousands of torchbearers on this 4.5-month journey. For all the hype and extravaganza of Olympic opening and closing ceremonies we've come to expect of the modern Games, this ceremony, though rich and authentic in tradition, is considerably plain, even dull some might say, but the symbolism is the key. It means the countdown is on, and that must panic Games organisers who, in many major ways, are very much behind schedule. The main stadium, they tell us now, will not be ready until just 3 weeks before the Games begin, and that's a terrible risk. And the swimming pool will not have a permanent roof, instead a temporary canvas one. And with the expected Greek summer heat, that will drain swimmers' energy and reduce the chance of potential world records. Anyway, Hugh, the torch relay is now underway. It will be the longest and largest ever, covering every continent and visiting every past Olympic host city. It arrives in Australia on June 4th, that's East Coast only. Then it weaves its way back around the world and to Greece by August 13th for the opening ceremony, and hopefully it'll arrive in the main stadium in Athens that should be ready on time. In Olympia, I'm Michael Usher reporting for Nightline. Hugh.
Thanks, Michael. Hospitals in Sydney's southwest, plagued with accusations of mismanagement, political interference and inadequate care, are to get a major boost in services. The New South Wales government says it will adopt all the recommendations of a report arising from an 8-week investigation into the maternity units.
The report's key recommendation will see a networked maternity service in Sydney southwest, with Liverpool Hospital providing critical and acute maternity care. Smaller hospitals such as Camden, Campbelltown and Bankstown will handle medium and normal risk births.
It'll mean improved care, improved maternity care.
Keeping Camden Hospital's controversial maternity unit open has been backed by the government.
Well, that's the advice of one of Australia's top experts, Professor David Henderson-Smart. A review is being done and the review recommends that it remain open.
Professor Henderson-Smart's other recommendations include 4 more high-level neonatal cots at Liverpool Hospital, plus extra ventilated and non-ventilated cots, up to 6 more beds at Liverpool to cater for women with complicated pregnancies, and at least 2 extra maternity beds at Bankstown Hospital. As well as better facilities, more expert maternity staff will be put in place across the region. Maternity units in Sydney southwest have recently come under fire, the death of baby Natalia Lalek prompting suggestions Camden Hospital's maternity ward, opened in the lead up to last year's elections, shouldn't have been operating in the first place.
The government's confident the sweeping changes will alleviate many of the concerns surrounding maternity care in Sydney southwest. Simon Boda reporting for Nightline.
French security forces are continuing an exhaustive search of the country's rail system after the discovery of a bomb on the main line from Paris to Switzerland. The device was defused, but it renews fears of wider attacks. Just 3 weeks ago, there was a major alert on the French network after a blackmail group set one bomb and claimed to have planted 8 others. Sydney businessman Trevor Kennedy today lost a bid to prevent the corporate watchdog using personal documents seized from his home in its Offset Alpine investigation. ASIC is trying to establish whether Mr Kennedy, former stockbroker Rene Rivkin and former Federal Minister Graham Richardson held a secret share in the printing company. The business was destroyed by fire 10 years ago, producing a $53 million insurance payout. Mr Kennedy argued the notes were legally privileged documents, but a federal court judge rejected that claim, granting ASIC permission to use them. And a warning today from the Reserve Bank: if Australians stop spending, they could worsen future economic downturns. Here's Ross Greenwood.
The Reserve Bank says it's rare that consumers spark an economic downturn, but it's concerned that rising household debt levels could cause consumers to stop spending if an economic downturn were to arise. But it reports that the health of our financial institutions are in great shape. It says even if house prices fell 30%, almost all banks and finance companies would still meet their solvency requirements. The Reserve Bank says house prices have risen at an average annual rate of 12% since the beginning of 1996, and growth in household debt has been similarly rapid. But another survey out today says that households are paying off debt and want to keep doing so. The survey by ING and the Melbourne Institute says this could be due to extra debt taken on in the past couple of years, plus the increase in interest rates late last year. But the survey also says households are in better financial shape than at the same time last year. More than half of all households save part of their income, and the number of households running into debt has fallen to 3.7%. Metropolitan households are in better financial shape than rural households. Almost 72% of households either fully own their own home or have a mortgage, and 40% fully own their own home outright. Also today, Westpac says its profits are running ahead of forecasts. It expects further modest increase in interest rates this year, but says house prices are higher than they were a year ago.
And on the markets today, the All Ordinaries Index gained 10 points. Westpac was the big winner, up 30 cents. AMP was also higher, and Southcorp jumped after rival Constellation gave an upbeat assessment of US wine sales. National Australia Bank was again lower today. Rio Tinto lost ground as metal prices fell, and Sigma fell again after its recent profit report. On overseas markets, Tokyo closed up 165 points. London is trading 34 points higher. Gold is fetching $416.35 US an ounce. The Aussie dollar is weaker against the greenback tonight, dropping down below 74 US cents. It is up against the pound, but down against the other majors. If childbirth still seems a miracle, sometimes a multiple miracle. An American woman has just given birth to 4 boys. They are not strictly quadruplets, but 2 separate sets of identical twins.
After 3 years of infertility treatment, the 2-person McGowan household in Houston, Texas has swollen to 6 overnight. They've been blessed with identical twins twice.
The day that I found out I was pregnant, I cheated. I did a pregnancy test on my own that morning, and I looked at the test and I thought, it's positive. It's positive.
Hey, Jacob. Even though Cheryl McGowan carried the 4 babies all at once, they're not considered to be quads. Rather, 2 sets of identical twins because the 2 eggs doctors implanted divided.
Every time we went to the doctor, they would add a baby. We started out with, we're pregnant, and then it came to we're having twins, and then they said, oh, by the way, there's a 3rd one in there.
And then when we went to the next visit, there was a 4th heartbeat, and Dr. Ryder confirmed it.
Only later did husband Jeffrey find out about a significant contributing factor concerning the arrival of Justin, Jacob, Jason, and Jacoby.
Daddy, love you, man. My wife, love her to death, but she kept a secret from me, and that is that there are twins that run on both her mother and father side of the family.
It's a rare one. Winning this quadrella is only likely to happen in about 1 in 11 million pregnancies. In Los Angeles, Robert Penfold reporting for Nightline.
George W. Bush has tested the water in case the worst happens to him at the upcoming US elections. He's tried his hand at comedy at a fundraising dinner in Washington, but the critics are still out on whether he's found a future career.
It really ticked me off when Democrats questioned my National Guard service in Alabama. Here's a photo proving that I was in Alabama fulfilling my duties. Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Once I got these trading cards, it's easy to remember the names of the foreign leaders.
Nightline Sports News after the break. 2 of the NRL top guns prepare for their Friday showdown. And the Tigers coach feels the heats ahead of the Collingwood clash.
From all these vines, how do the winemakers know exactly which grapes to select for their best wines? And how do they know exactly when to pick them?
This is one of our Barossa Valley vineyards from which we picked fruit earlier this year for the Jacobs Creek Reserve range. And we select, obviously, only the best to go into the reserves. Picking decision and the quality decisions by walking through the vineyards and actually tasting the fruit. And so during vintage nowadays, you'll find winemakers spending more and more of their time actually walking through vineyards than working in the winery, which might have been the traditional situation years ago.
And that's Inside Wine from Jacobs Creek. I'm Natasha Zavella.
This Inside Wine update was brought to you by Liquorland.
You never know when you might find yourself in trouble. But if you do, it's good to know the Westpac rescue helicopters and crews are there to help you. They save an average of 12 lives a day. So to the brave crews and everyone who supports them, a big thank you.
Sometimes, to get what you really want out of life, you have to put your foot down. Introducing the new high-performance Alfa Romeo 156 JTS.
Now on sale at Liquorland, a great selection of premium wines to share with friends. Jacobs Creek Reserve Cab Sav, Chardonnay and Shiraz, all only $12.99 a bottle. That's 20% off Jacobs Creek Reserve Range wines at Liquorland. Offer ends soon. See in store for details.
To sport now on Nightline, and hopes of Australia wrapping up a clean sweep of the Test series in Sri Lanka have taken a knock. The home side headed for a big first innings tally. Earlier, Darren Lehmann picked up where he left off last night, finishing with a ton and a half, as Australia pushed on to a first dig total of 401. Marvin Atupatu's century has helped Sri Lanka to a great reply, with only 2 wickets down at stumps.
Comfortable with the spin of the game, Darren Lehmann resumed on 104 with an appetite for more milestones.
That is right out of the meat of the bat.
His 77-run partnership with Shane Warne ended when the spinner was trapped for 32. Aware that he was running out of partners, Lehmann lashed away and passed 150 for the 3rd time in his Test career.
Fantastic innings.
His exit 3 runs later saw Australia's innings end at 401.
And it's caught, beautifully caught.
Sri Lanka's openers began in overdrive.
Slashed away.
They smashed Australia's pace attack, forging a half-century stand in the first 8 overs.
That'll go all the way.
For the most part, the Australians set up an offside field. That didn't deny Sanath Jayasuriya and Marvin Atupatu playing to their strengths.
And hit beautifully backward a point.
It took a century maker to become the circuit breaker. Lehmann's second ball to Jayasuriya saw the opener throw away his wicket for 71.
The Boston Strangler strikes.
1 for 134. Kumar Sangakkara looked unlucky to be given out for 22. Adam Gilchrist's appeal was less than convincing.
That is a bonus for the Australians.
Atupatu carried Sri Lanka towards 200.
Short and dealt with.
Atupatu's 16th boundary polished off an enterprising ton, his first against Australia.
To Atupatu, 12th Test 100.
Charles Christian for Nightline.
The troubled but top-of-the-table Bulldogs will take on the Roosters tomorrow night in what's tipped to be a bruising encounter. The Roosters have 5 key players out with injuries, while the Bulldogs remain determined to keep winning despite the scandals engulfing the club.
In recent times, when these two teams meet, there's no holding back.
I'm glad I'm in the centres for the first set of 6, I'll tell you that.
Hard as nails Rooster forward Peter Cusack knows it will be tough, especially missing the likes of Hegarty, Wing, Kalis, Croker and Cross.
2002 was we had a similar sort of run and we ended up having a good year.
For all their off-field drama, the Dogs have kept it together, according to Braithen Astor, and go into the match with 15 wins in 20 over the competition favourites.
It's a credit to the players that we can turn up and still train hard, still train good and still play good at the same time.
There was a spirit at the Bulldogs training today that belies the club crisis.
Mine's on the job, mate. You know, we've had a bit of pressure on us, but I think between the players we've just been keeping it between us and doing the job it's at hand.
Lalise's opposite, Chris Flannery, is wary of what the Dogs will bring to the game.
They're not going to be taking any of that off-field drama into the game, so we're not going to be thinking about it either.
Two teams, both vulnerable, one with the swag of injuries, but that will improve. Who knows about the other?
We've only got control over what we do on the field, and we're going to do our darndest to make sure that's our best.
In rugby union, the highly promising Cameron Shepherd has been named as Matt Rogers' replacement at fullback for the Waratahs Super 12 game against the Chiefs on Saturday. Ken Sutcliffe for Nightline.
The off-field dramas continue at the Richmond Club. Ahead of tomorrow's season opener against Collingwood in the AFL, the Tigers have held a crisis board meeting to consider the club's worsening financial position, even as the strain was starting to tell on coach Danny Frawley.
Just a hint of opening night nerves at Punt Road, certainly from coach Danny Frawley, who bristled at the mere suggestion that Collingwood, who haven't won a game pre-season, could go into tomorrow night's match a tad undone.
Yeah, but God, we're professionals. But God, what are the... We're fit, I'm sure Collingwood will be super fit. That's a pathetic question.
No, but in terms of, like, you know, the talk around town is that you guys will go in as favourites, given Collingwood's pre-season.
Give me a break, Tony. They've come off 2 grand finals.